Welcome to the Comic Binge. I am your host, Paul Herman, and this is Marveling. Well, this is the Comic Binge, but this is Marveling Star Wars Episode 11, which I'm excited to talk about. Ahsoka. I've talked about it ad nauseum with the saga continues, with the Star Wars Newsnet guys, and I've had a blast. And I will not stop talking about Ahsoka probably, but regardless, my two old friends here that have not talked about it a lot, at least, well, one person in particular, because he hasn't watched anything, it seems like, but we'll get to that in a second. But I'm excited to talk about this. We'll get some comic recommendations and just talk about some Star Wars stuff. We'll have a good old time. So we'll talk about, I'll introduce the next person, or the first person, who's actually watched Ahsoka, which will be my good friend, Chris Carey. Hello, Chris Carey. How are we doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And, I know you guys talked about this, in our, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit here. You were like, well, I thought I was fired. You haven't talked to me in a while. I'm like, dude, what the hell? First of all, I'm fired from what? What the hell am I firing you from? Like, this is nothing. But second of all, of course not. It's like, I did ask last month, are we all ready to get together? And Ryfin was like, no, I can't do it. I gotta have football and stuff. And,
He's so busy.
He's so busy. I mean, he just has like 800 jobs. I don't know what he does. Anyway, but. So I'm glad to have you back on. Hopefully we won't have as big of a drought as last time. But good to have you back. I'm excited. I kind of already know we're gonna probably butt heads a little bit today, but that's fine. I can deal with I can deal with that. Okay. I already know. I've seen your social media post about Ahsoka. I already know what's going on.
I feel like my social media post is not as nuanced as my take. Like, you'll see.
All right, I'll do it. And last but not least, the elder statesman himself. Scotty Fun, Scott Ryfin, how are we doing?
Oh, least. Definitely least. Come on. Let's be honest.
Never the least for you, sir. You are no. In fact, we had to put the elder statesman up. He has to go above Chris. He has to go above Chris. I'm sorry. Chris,
and I was here first. So
you were here first. And I didn't think you were gonna be here. I thought you'd be out with your wife on a date.
We went on a date. She's asleep. I bored her to tears.
That is true love right there. That is true love.
She's out cold.
You're talking about Ahsoka. You're doing a podcast before. Now you're back here with us talking about more podcasts. I mean, I only thought you had eyes for my Star Wars podcast. Right?
I have big eyes for your Star Wars podcast.
I know you do. You are. Yeah, I understand.
But
you got to spread the love. I get it. You got to spread the love. I know, I always appreciate everything you do for me. So I just enjoy it. Honestly, this is an excuse for me to hang out with you guys. Essentially, It's like, well, we can't really hang out in person, and I just force you guys to like get your attention on what I want to do, and so I make you guys come to see me. So this is selfish for me. So anyway, I don't know what the hell am I doing. So anyway, yeah, we're gonna talk about Ahsoka, and we won't spend a gigantic amount of time talking about it, but before we get started, anything Star Wars like comic related that you're jiving on, like because I haven't been. I'll show you what I've been jiving on. I'll show you guys in a second, but Chris, I'll go to you. Besides what I've made you do, are you reading anything? Anything? Yeah, go ahead, please.
So the current run of Star Wars, I read like the War of the Bounty Hunters and hated it a lot, and I remember. I hated it so much because they build it as like, oh, it's like the canon version of Shadows of the Empire, right? And then they pull the rug out from under you and they go, psych, Kira's back, and it's all about the Crimson Dawn. And I hated that so much. So the whole like the Crimson Reign, Hidden Empire, like could not have cared less. But I'm reading the trades of like the different runs that are kind of taking place concurrently, like as Hidden Empire ends, and I'm loving it. I'll talk about one of them a little later, but I'm loving Bounty Hunters, and I hated that when it started.
I know, I remember, yeah.
Okay. I was like, this comic is so crappy, and I just didn't care about any of the characters. But after War of the Bounty Hunters, Valance, the cyborg main character, he gets taken by Darth Vader and fixed up, and then he actually moves into the Darth Vader comic for a bit. And I just finished the latest volume where he kind of like gets out of the Empire and he gets back in with the Bounty Hunters. But the story is so good now. I just like I was just flip it. I just couldn't stop reading. I read the whole last trade in a single sitting, and I was like,
Wow.
I need more. You know, the IG-88 finally showed up, and he was amazing. Oh, it was great. It was such a feel of like really late 90s, early 2000s Dark Horse to me. Yeah. Oh man, it's great stuff.
So
artwork is maybe my favorite artwork in Star Wars comics right now.
Let me see who is the same guy. It's been different people. It looks like, because I don't think it started off with this guy or not. I have all the trades right over there. I can grab them in a second, but yeah, I'll just kind of what you're piggybacking off of what you were talking about, and I liked Bounty Hunters from the start. I thought it was pretty solid and pretty fun. The series, not the War of the Bounty Hunters. That was not as good.
No.
I'll say it wasn't terrible. It just Shadows of the Empire is better. Let's be real. I'll show you how far I'm behind on Star Wars comics. Okay, this is not including the current like single issues. Okay, this is what I'm behind. All this is what I'm behind on.
Oh my god! Oh, you're killing me.
Yeah. It's getting rocking.
Punctuated it with the drums.
Yeah, I know. It was crazy, right?
Wow.
No, but that's how much I've got to read, and not including. Man. And I actually have all the other ones that you're. Well, I'll show you. I actually brought them all out. I brought these out to eventually when I've already read. This is stuff I've read over the last couple of years. These are all the current like series that are on Marvel, and I've read all these, but I had them out because I'm gonna reread all this stuff, right? And I don't know. I want to remember what came out and everything, and then what happened. But yeah. Yeah, that's right. So Bounty Hunters is different artists. On the first two trades are pretty much the same guy, Vanelli.
Gino?
What?
Gino Vanelli?
I don't know. Well, we'll find out. I'm not sure if you're being funny or being serious.
I'm being apparently not funny.
I don't know who that is. That's the good news. So no, but no, this I will recommend. I've read these two and I've liked these a lot. Like I thought Ethan Sachs is doing a pretty good job with the Bounty Hunters, and even though this wasn't super great, it's still fine. I would say the start. Go ahead, Chris.
It only gets better, in my opinion.
No, I'm sure it does. I liked. I think Ethan Sachs did Target Vader. I think if I'm not mistaken, which is also very good. Yeah, that was a great miniseries that kind of set up Bounty Hunters and I would definitely say that's a great. My dog is going crazy up there. But yeah, like there's a lot of really cool things happening in I think comics, but it's just not consistent. That's kind of my issue right now. I would say, like, at least for me, like High Republic stuff, which I'll have a whole episode one day. We'll talk about that because we can talk about it as a whole because the comics are definitely obviously a huge part of it. Mm-hmm. It's so confusing now what they're doing. When we went back and forth, I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing?
I haven't even touched phase 2 yet, honestly. Like I haven't done any of the books yet, the comics. I was a little High Republiced out by the time phase 1 ended, and I was like,
it's way too much. Have you read anything High Republic? We can branch out to the books too if you need to.
I read the first 3 pages of one of the issues of the comics, but it struck me as the bad part of what Dark Horse did, and so I didn't really stick with it. I bought it all. At some point I plan to get to it, but there are other things that I prefer to have read. So
that's fair. That's fair.
The only comic from High Republic I like, they did a mini series. I think it was called like something with shadows in it. Yes, that one. I really liked the Trail of Shadows.
Did not like the Blade.
Well, see, this is the one that I read the first issue of this and I really liked it. I would say this is probably, to kind of sneak a little peek. I haven't read all of it. I only read a little bit of it. I was going to use this as a recommendation for Ahsoka, but I felt that'd be cheating because I haven't read the whole thing. But Charles Soule, you can't lose Charles Soule, man. He's one of the most consistent writers.
Pretty solid, yeah.
He's good.
Does he do the Star Wars ongoing right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Huge not fan of that run, actually.
Well, and that's fine. Like I read
spinning its wheels to me.
I think it is. I think it is. I think it is.
And you know, there are a lot of people that have it's that time frame. You don't have Solo.
Exactly.
You can't advance Luke and Vader. You know, there's not a lot you can do but spin your wheels. Nobody did it as well as David Michelinie did it. Period. I got to throw that dig in there. So
I love Michelinie, dude.
Yeah,
he's such an underrated writer. No, this I would say really quick. If you guys are digging Ahsoka, this is not my pick officially, but I definitely think this is worth your while. It's Jedi stuff. It's fun. The art's solid. Soul's a good writer. You may not. Again, going back to the Star Wars line, the main series. I've only read the first like 3 trades, but it's not bad. It's not overly great, but nothing will touch his Vader run. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That is legend. That is masterpiece. Like I will one day do.
One, right?
What's that?
No, that's not the prequel one he did.
No, that's the prequel one he did. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I love that
one.
Yeah. So I mean, and that'll be on the comic book masterpiece series that I eventually do. And oh my gosh, Vactor's here. Oh, Vac, baby. Oh, that's my boy right there. You know, Vac, we got to get you back on here. I know you're busy, you got a new job and all that stuff, but we got to get you on, bro. I miss you. Let's see what we got. We got another comment here. I love comments. Comments are great. Okay. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about this. I promise. So, but yeah, I would say like Ryfin makes a good point. I think Soul's doing as much as he can with what he's doing. And I did like Hidden Empire. I read that main trade. That was solid, but I have not, but I'm not yet gone past that. And I'm very excited to eventually get there.
I like how that story ended.
Okay.
How Hidden Empire ended.
I haven't read all the trade. I haven't read all the tie-in material, but I'm almost there. So
yeah. You know, you were talking about not liking all the Black Sun stuff, that tie-in stuff. To me, that stuff is kind of the Star Wars comics equivalent of the Clone Wars saga. Where you kind of feel like it should have, okay, we've gotten to a point where it should end. Oh no, we can't end it because we got to do this next giant thing with it. Oh, wait a minute, now we have to do this next giant thing with it. It's like, okay, should this not be over now? And it's like they just kept going, this is selling pretty well. We got to stretch this out even further. So all that Crimson Dawn stuff, just to me, will go down as the Clone Wars, Clone Saga of the Star Wars comic.
Wait. Did you just compare the Clone Saga of Spider-Man to the Crimson Reign?
Yes, that whole thing. Yeah, War of the Bounty Hunters, the Crimson Reign, Hidden Empire, all of it. Yeah, because it just kept going and going and going, and it needed to have ended much sooner than it did. Yes,
that's actually kind of genius. I was ready to like throw you under the bus, but then I started thinking about it. I was like, wait a minute. He's right. He actually might be right. I think right now just like most mainstream comic book series. I mean, this is not the case for independent comics, obviously, but most comic book, obviously like DC, Marvel, whatever, it's the events that sell. And that's what they're doing right now. And I think that's getting tiresome.
It's getting tiresome.
Yeah, I like the Dark Droid arc they're doing now. I'm like, I have zero interest in this. Yep. Zero. And I'm like, it just sucks.
The next one after. It's like,
that's the problem with the event-driven comics.
Jedi.
You've got the problem with event-driven comics to me is you have a combination of you have to have the event and you have decompressed storytelling with it. So, a normal story is going to be a minimum of 4 issues, maybe 6. So there's never any time for the status quo. There is never a status quo for a series.
Yeah.
Because you have a story or 2, maybe, and then you have the next big event.
Yep.
And then you maybe get a story and then the next big event. So there's never, ever, ever a status quo that you can kind of groove with that then makes those special events special.
And I feel like there's one of two ways you can go there that they've been doing it, right? You either go the War of the Bounty Hunters route, where there are just whole sections of the story that are cut out, and you have to go read another comic to find out kind of, hey, what happened here? Or you go the Crimson Reign Hidden Empire route, where you don't need to read the other stuff, but if you do, it gives you kind of a better foundation, right? Like, you don't need to read Hidden Empire to know that Dr. Aphra is possessed at the at the climax, and she's going to fight Vader. But if you read her ongoing, you'll get that. You'll kind of fill in the pieces, but it's not
okay. So,
right.
question.
I think the best tie-in that it was, but it wasn't, like, you had to be in the know. The Han Solo and Chewbacca comics.
No, those are great. That was so good.
They're amazing. I loved it. I think it was the first volume. There's a scene where they're going to rob. Yes, there's a scene in the first volume where they're going to rob this woman who's a trader. She's trading in these ancient artifacts, and it's one of the main women from the Crimson Reign run. And Han Solo is looking at her in the binoculars, and he actually sees Kira from behind. It's when Kira recruits this character, but they don't mention it. There's no editor's note. Hey, see Crimson Reign. It's just that if you were reading the comic at that time and you could put two and two together, you got it. And if you didn't, you missed nothing. And I thought that was a really, really cool little bit of synergy.
That is the best when they do that. You're absolutely right.
Did you, Ryfin, did you read this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is like totally up your alley.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's solid.
This is I would say the beginning's better than the second half.
Yes.
But that being said, I think Guggenheim gets the voice of Han Solo like on the money.
Yeah. He has his moments that are
Ryfin, don't do this to me, sir. Don't do this to me. We're gonna have words, sir.
There are moments where I go, not quite, but yeah. No, it's solid, and it's it's caper stuff. It's them being scoundrels, them being crooked, them being con artists, and them being conned. I think part of the back half of that thing is that I don't know that they know what to do with the fake dad character at that point.
See, I was bummed. I was hoping I was kind of hoping they were gonna go for like glory there and making the dad, because the problem with
they can't.
There's no way they're gonna do that.
No, they wouldn't do it on something like this.
That's exactly my point. That's what they need to do, because that's the problem. These comics and the books are so inconsequential in some ways. Yeah. And like, it makes me go, why should I read these comics? I mean, obviously because I'm a mark. I mean, like, that's the other thing is I'll buy anything, right? But the problem is, let's make these comics actually matter and do something with them. Because I mean, like, no one's gonna touch Solo's dad for maybe ever. So I actually thought, like, oh, we're actually gonna get a substantial story in this. Awesome. Nope. It's like, spoiler alert, guys. I don't mean to spoil it for you, but I will say this: it had me going there for a minute, and I actually really liked that. To be
well, and if they can do that, I mean, that's what you're in it for. Because going into it, they're not. But if they can make you doubt it, that's not a bad thing.
No, you're right.
Staros isn't Han's wife.
But I like that though. I do, dude. Thank you for the ultimate segue, sir. Because this is the other one. Have you guys read this yet?
I did. I didn't really care for it.
No,
really?
No.
Bummer, dude. Well, I'll be honest. I'm just flipping through the art. Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah,
I think there's an interesting angle in the you're married to an Imperial thing.
I agree with that.
But I don't know that the execution was wonderful.
And I felt like they should have built up her brother's character more. Like, it felt like there's more to that relationship that we really didn't get a chance to see. So he didn't develop as a character.
Yeah. I'm curious. A couple more things here, and Dark Taco's here too. Oh my gosh. Let's see here. I agree. No, Dark Taco is 100% right. They need to go in different eras, and the problem is there's so many, and everything's in one era right now besides the High Republic. that it's just jarring. It's like, well, here's, I understand that they don't want to get too far in one area, and it's like, they don't want to have to overwrite everything, because I know they're going to overwrite these comics. Like, it's not like,
yeah,
but at the same time, I've gone on record many a times saying that Dave Filoni has done a great job of how you override something without completely ignoring it. And I think Jon Favreau, especially Dave Filoni, and what he's done with Clone Wars to Bad Batch to Mandalorian to Ahsoka, even, with the other mediums, how you can respect it without trampling it. And I think he's done a really good job of that, to be honest. So I think as long as it happens, but it doesn't have to happen the same exact way, the fine details or whatever, as long as the main points remain, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Speaking of main points that remain, do you guys read this yet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone in the chat's read this, let me know. Is this any good? I love Cantwell. I like the writer a lot. So
it's not bad. It's a little more episodic than I had intended it be. Than I thought it would be. Yoda is too. But it's not bad. It's not a bad little series.
Okay, Chris, have you read the Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I read it. It was episodic. I don't really remember a whole lot of it. I think that kind of speaks to it.
That's a lot of modern comics for me, period, unfortunately.
I mean, that's just, to be honest with anything, right? You can watch something and forget it. You can listen to something and forget it. And you could, read something and forget it. It's just, it's with any medium, right? In my opinion. But your point remains. I mean, it's, the comics are the same way,
But I also just remember, I'm going to play the old guy card if I can right now.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. When we would read an issue and it would take 30, 40 minutes to read an issue, and now 10, 6, 7 minutes to read an issue. And so when you do that, there's no real time for it to stick around. You don't sit and think about it. You don't ponder it. You go, okay, finish that one, move on to the next.
Yeah.
Well, man, we're gonna be opening Pandora's box. I don't think you're wrong. No, I don't, because the problem with modern comics is basically there's no there. The writers are what's the word I'm looking for? They don't. Let me rephrase the question. Will Eisner talked about this, right? The legend, the icon himself, right?
Yes.
If you don't know who Will Eisner is, he wrote The Spirit. He created The Spirit. And
adore Will Eisner.
Yeah. He's a legend. And he's also made really important graphic novels like A Contract with God and other things like that are very important for the comic book medium.
In essence, created the graphic novel. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. And he hated the word comics too, by the way. He hated that term. So anyway, he talked about back in the day when he was doing The Spirit and everything, that people being artists would put a ton of panels on a page because people thought they were getting more out of the comic book because there's more panels on a page. So they thought, oh, if I put like 15 panels on this, people are like, I'm getting my money's worth on this. And I think there's a truth to that, because right now the problem is like manga is very much the opposite of that. Like it's more traditional, or not traditional on their end. It's, again, I haven't read a ton of manga, but what I've read, it's pretty consistent of like no more, pretty much like 4 or 5 panels. It's like, that's it. And they do a phenomenal way of storytelling that way, but I feel it's more efficient because it's black and white and they're able to produce more out. So when you do read manga, trying to find the manga here that I have, Star Wars manga here somewhere. Don't worry, don't do this to me right now, Paul. What are you doing? I can't find it. God dang it. Anyway, but yeah, like the fact that it's so condensed, it's so specific, and it's such a big, thick book that you get more out of it, that you can kind of absorb it a lot better. Whereas now that when you do that with comic, and the problem is American artists or artists in mainstream comic books like Marvel and DC, not all of them, but some of them aren't, they try to do the same thing and they're not as good. And the writers, like who are not the artists, are kind of writing either to the artist's strengths or not really caring about, they don't want to bore the reader. And I don't want to put a bunch of 9-panel grids on here because I don't want to be ripping off the Watchmen, or they don't want. Like, Tom King does not have this problem, by the way. Tom King's the opposite, which is great, to be honest. But my point is, they're not putting a lot of dialogue in there. So when you have pages that only have 4, 5, 6 panels, and if you've positioned them a certain way where you're only going to have like a couple boxes of dialogue, of course you're going to blow through it in 10 minutes, you know? Whereas, like, to your point, Ryfin, like, if you're putting, back in the day, we're getting deep in characters' thoughts, but not just characters' thoughts, like the main character, we're getting everyone's character. We had thought balloons, for God's sakes, right?
Balloons.
I love thought balloons.
We're reading right now. We're going to be posting the episode soon. We're rereading the Dan Slott Spider-Man run, and now from the beginning.
Didn't he write like 400 issues?
Oh shit! Okay.
Well, now he didn't write all of Brand New Day. He only wrote some of Brand New Day.
Yeah.
But then he took over with eventually everything.
Yeah.
And then we got a lot, but we just got done. We just recorded the initial Brand New Day comics. What's interesting when I bring that up is that Dan Slott has a lot of thought balloons. Now here's the problem. Thought balloons are great, but when you read the old comics, and Ryfin, you're gonna back me up on this, you could get into everyone's head. Everyone. Meaning the villains, the side characters, whatever. Dan Slott still was only doing thought balloons with Spider-Man, which is fine, but those are just captions, just looked different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, which I like the idea of being able to get into villains' heads without them like saying things out loud.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with today's comics, is that no one wants to be that guy or gal to be, hey, let's just get in everyone's heads and like not be as interesting. Like, there's a fear of like going back to the old way of writing, in my opinion, because they don't want to be looked as like, oh, you're doing something that's already, it's too boring, or you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's not as cool to do that.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple of things here. At one point, everybody started writing for the trade.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's business. But then what also I think has happened in the last several years is now everybody's writing for the film. And so, everything has gotten much more cinematic in these things because they're looking, and the studios, I don't think have been real bashful about saying they're using the floppies as R&D for, their motion picture and TV empires. So, that's really all this has become at this point.
Well, I think for the mainstream stuff, and I know we're getting deep in the weeds here on this conversation. I love it. I effing love it though, because this is a bigger issue that one day here's the problem with the binge. I love this channel so much, but like no one watches it except for the people who are watching now, which I really appreciate it. No, I mean this. I only want to get a bigger audience to put out comics and to write my own comics and like basically promote the medium. That's all I care about. And Scott, I've said this from the beginning. Chris, you know this. I've said it for everyone who knows me well, understands. I legitimately don't care about fame or anything like that, right? And one of the reasons I want the binge to get bigger and have a bigger audience is to have a big discussion about the medium and how we can improve it and acknowledge the weaknesses of it. And I think Ryfin brought up a great point that this is what the mainstream stuff has turned into. It's an R&D, right? But to even get even deeper with like independent comics, and we'll finally move on. I'll actually go back to Star Wars. That even the independent stuff has turned into that too, because all these creators are like, hey, Netflix, hey, blah, blah, blah. Here's this, here's that. And it's not just Image. It's like the lower stuff. And I say lower because it's not as big.
Mark Miller, he writes.
Well, he has a deal. Well, he has a deal with Netflix. So it's a little different.
But you think about what was IDW doing in their early days? They were just creating. They sold Cowboys and Aliens before they even had a comic.
I thought it was Malibu who did Cowboys and
Aliens.
Was
it Malibu? I was thinking it was IDW. Either way,
maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
Whoever it was that did it, they sold it before they actually made the comic. They sold it to Hollywood because that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah. But in the comic, they were working on the comic before they even sold the movie. but it came out like it's kind of like it all came out together.
They didn't even have a completed, and then of course the comic bore no resemblance to the movie, which is not necessarily the worst thing.
I have the comic. I have not watched the movie or read the comic yet, but I have the comic.
Movie's hard.
I heard it sucks. I love Favreau.
The movie when it came out, I remember thinking it was fine.
Fine would be probably the high end of it. Yeah.
Yikes. Well, okay. So this is fun. I miss you guys. This has been great. No, I mean it because I think one day when the binge gets a bigger audience, I will have a big I want to have a big thing where we keep instead of they suck. I hate these comics. Let's talk about what the weaknesses are. Acknowledge maybe the general weaknesses. How we can improve it instead of get better writers, get less woke. Get that crap out of here. I don't want to hear that crap. What's because it's bigger than
I
that.
would like him to get less woke, but that's
God, shut up, Ryfin. I don't want to why I had to say open my big effing mouth, didn't I? I had to say it.
I mean, I would like that, yes, but
okay, all right. I know you're conservative.
But it's not the be all end all of it.
It's way more. We all know it's more than that, and I don't think it's always a bad thing. You are not wrong.
And this is correct.
Not wrong.
Yes, you are very correct.
We can all. I think liberals and conservatives can unite over Olivia Wilde being fine.
Yes, we can.
I think we can. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes.
Yes, and she's also in Tron, my favorite haircut, by the way. And I'm not even joking. She's so fine in that movie. Yikes. Anyway, whoo. All right, it's getting hot in here. All right. Anyway, so we're gonna talk about a show that Scott Ryfin, who claims to be a Star Wars fan, hasn't watched yet.
I'm a bad fan.
You're not a bad fan. But before I get into it, we're gonna talk about Ahsoka, which me and Chris will have predominantly the main conversation because Chris Ryfin doesn't watch things. So I've talked about Ahsoka a lot. Before we get into it, Chris, I'm gonna ask Ryfin. We're not gonna spoil it for Ryfin, and we're gonna leave spoilers out because I love Ryfin. But Scotty Fun, let me ask you this: you're just almost done with Clone Wars. You're on season 6.
Yes.
You're watching my favorite arc right now, which is the Yoda arc, one of my favorite things of all Star Wars. Dark Choco, if you're still watching, Vactor, if you're still watching, let me know what you guys think of that arc. That's one of my favorites of anything Star Wars related. What do you think of Ahsoka as a character now? And as we progressed into just kind of your general Ahsoka thoughts at this point.
She's grown nicely. I took G-Man. G-Man probably doesn't remember this. I took G-Man to the opening night of the movie at the theater. Really? And and she was annoying and obnoxious, and she was the kid sidekick that everybody hates. And I usually don't hate the kid sidekick, but at the end of that first movie, I was not a fan of the kid sidekick. And she has grown into a legit, real, honest to goodness character to the point that she has walked away from the Jedi Order at the point I'm at in the program, and you feel for her in that. You feel for the situation she's put in. It's real. It's complex. She's a character at this point.
Yeah.
She's not a cartoon stand-in, which is nice.
Yeah.
Now I'm not redecorating the room in all Ahsoka, but I like the character. I think she's grown very nicely. I think her arc has been tremendous.
And you haven't watched Rebels, correct?
I watched the first season, and then I watched up until the second season, up until the Jaws episode. But other than that, yeah.
Oh, with when they're fishing,
they're fishing. They're playing the music from Jaws.
Are they playing the music with Jaws?
Absolutely, playing Out to Sea. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna trump everyone right here.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
I've never seen Jaws.
Whoa.
What?
Now, I just want to throw it out there. It's gotten to that point where I don't know if I ever will.
You just resist it now.
I'm just gonna resist it now because I just don't care. I just don't care.
You'd love it.
I probably. I mean, I take that back. I may watch it if my daughter wants to watch it. Yeah, she could. If there's one person in this world, my wife can't make me do a lot of things. But there's one person in this world. It's probably my daughter. She's the only person. Be like, Daddy, will you go watch soccer for me? I'd be like, Yes, like it's like probably that's asking a lot of me, to be quite honest. Still asking a lot. No offense to people who like soccer. Yes, dude. The Yoda comics. I'm waiting for the trade. God, it's taking forever for that dang thing,
Right?
man. Ugh.
Well, speaking of episodic, yeah, it's
Yeah.
how many of those do I have? I have 9 of them. I don't have all 10.
Well, God, for the love of God, just get out there and make the trade for God's sake so I can read it. Okay, so you haven't got to season 2 of where Ahsoka comes in, I don't think. Or no, she's there, but you haven't got all the way down. Okay, that's fine. So anyway, Chris, people who are watching this probably already know my feelings on Ahsoka, which I will get into generalities. I want to be here all night. We're already a half hour in. This has been a blast. I love this. But regardless, Chris, why don't you tell us what your general thoughts of Ahsoka are?
I liked it, didn't love it.
Classic.
Classic. Like it was really interesting watching with my wife, because my wife has seen, all the Star Wars movies, but she hasn't seen the Clone Wars. She hasn't seen Rebels. So it was very interesting, me coming into it and knowing these characters already versus her, who, I mean, she was familiar with Ahsoka just from how prevalent she is and she's out there. But, my wife had no clue who Hera was, no clue who Sabine was, no clue who Ezra is or Thrawn or any of these folks. So it was very interesting to see what worked for her as a coming in blind and what didn't work for her, right? Like she liked Hera. She loved the dichotomy between Ahsoka and Sabine, although we both hated Sabine in the show. Hated her. Like easily least favorite character. We both had mixed feelings about the Dark Jedi in the show. Or are they Dark Jedi? I don't know. Balin.
Hold on. Time out.
What?
Before we go any further.
Okay.
That's how you feel now?
Yes.
He walked. Great. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, thanks. Now we're going to finish this by ourselves.
Oh, God.
And see, I'm over here like on the old game shows where they put the person in like on Family Feud, and they put the person in the soundproof booth so they can't hear the other answers.
No, Chris, no.
What is frustrating you? I'm happy to give you my thoughts, man.
Okay, all right, hold on. Sorry, my table's all weird and like things. I'm really frustrated right now. I'm just, oh my God. Dark Choco, if you're still in here, I almost want to get Dark Choco in here and talk some sense into you, man. He'll tell you. I know.
Chris, you were right. You did get fired.
Yeah. See, even your son's watched it, for God's sakes, right?
Yeah.
What the hell?
He's been podcasting about it.
He has?
Yeah.
Why did you tell me? Gee, what the hell? You
guys need to work that out.
All right, G, why don't you tell me this SH, man? Come on. Anyway. Okay, Chris, I think Balin's incredible. I
like Balin. I like Balin a lot. In fact, he was probably my favorite character in the whole show by the end. Right? I didn't care for his apprentice.
You're crazy.
I think she didn't get enough time to develop as a character. I don't know what her deal is. Honestly, I don't really know what their deal overall is. And it's really a shame that that Ray Stevenson passed away, because he really, by the end of that show, embodied that character so well.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I've got to imagine they're going to recast him.
They have to.
I can't imagine.
No spoilers. No spoilers for Ryfin. Remember, we tread lightly, sir. Tread lightly.
No, there's no spoilers. But I mean, well,
if you'll speak in Pig Latin, I think I'll miss it. So.
I still think Scott will forget. I'll be honest. We can probably say something. He'll probably forget. I mean, you fell asleep during Clone Wars panel and probably forgot half the things that came in through, and you start watching it fine now. It's gonna take at least 5 years to go to watch this.
The picture you're showing has got some spoilers up there too.
I mean, okay. First of all, if Ryfin missed this, then I am impressed that he's able to do that. That's all I gotta say. I mean, there's no way you can stay off the internet and not know that.
I'll say this: I did not care so much for the first couple episodes, But once Hayden comes in, I really thought it kind of kicked up a notch. Although I thought the finale dropped a little bit for me.
I think the finale wasn't as good as the whole series. I think the last 2 episodes dip a little bit in quality overall. And yeah, and Darth Chaco, if you're watching, I'm just curious if you agree with this. I have not dived into your thoughts yet on your content, but I would say I do love the series. It's my favorite Star Wars series so far. I'd say tied with Mando season 2. Yeah, dude, you heard me. You heard me. And because Mando season 2 does something that like it just balances what I love about Star Wars so well of
plus Boba Fett. Come on.
Well, yeah, but it's got everything. It's got a little bit of like old school EU stuff.
I agree. I think Mando season 2 is the peak, the pinnacle of Star Wars TV right now.
Or just peak of Star Wars storytelling, period.
I really love Obi-Wan though. I would put Obi-Wan for me. Obi-Wan is like right beneath.
I love Obi-Wan too. See, people want to talk SH about it, and I'm like, no, dude. Like, I love Obi-Wan. I think it's good. I do. I cried my eyes out at the end of Obi-Wan. I cried. I mean, now granted, it's partly because I have a personal connection with Leia and what she says to her parents at the end. Like, I gotta be careful. I will lose it right here. Like I lost it. Like I seriously lost it. I can't even watch the scene. I have to fast forward. I skip it every time because I'll just die. Because I'll just cry. It's emotional. But plus it's a great episode. It's just an emotional episode altogether. It's whole thing's emotional. But I would say season 2 of Mando and Ahsoka are tied because Ahsoka for me goes into the part of Star Wars that I love that Andor can't touch, which is a fantasy element. And that's what I'm here for. Like Star Wars to me is fantasy. It's just what it is. Now, Star Wars is also very it's not it's very diverse. It's not you can mold it to what you want to do. It's not, you can't pigeonhole Star Wars. That's what's so cool about it. The problem is the writers pigeonhole themselves. Not Star Wars. Star Wars is not pigeonholed. It's the writers.
I'm not a huge fan of the fantasy element. I think when it gets like really fantasy-ish, and maybe that's crazy. No. Like for example, like there's certain arcs in the Clone Wars that I hate that people adore.
Let me guess. Mortis.
Yeah, Mortis.
I hated Mortis. Okay. I hated it so hard, and then people said how much they loved it, and I was like, "What the? Like, what are we watching?" Like, it felt like I saw a different show.
You were watching an allegory, basically. Yeah. It was not very literal, which is most Star Wars has been pretty straightforward and literal, even though it's got fantasy elements. But that one is a very different beast.
Chris, all I gotta say for me and you. Anyway, continue. But yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I'll also say this. I really liked David Tennant as the robot.
Hugh Yang is amazing. You mean droid, sir? Please change your pronunciation.
For me, I felt like they never did a very good job of actually he's apparently been around since the High Republic. I feel like this is the first time I've seen him. I don't know if he's showed up.
Clone Wars. Hello. Padawan arc. The Younglings. Yeah.
Wow. Completely don't even remember it.
Well, Holmes, you better get back together with it because all I gotta say is that arc is so good. Like I love that arc.
Is that where the Younglings go to Ilum?
Yep, it's him.
Did he voice the robot in that episode too?
He did.
Holy shnikes.
He's great. And he's probably the secret weapon of the show, in my opinion. Like, I think I can see it. The thing about what I'm going to say about Ahsoka, let's see what Dark Chaco has to say here. Let's see what's going on here.
I disagree with that last part.
It's not your fave, Dark Chaco. It better not be Andor, or we got some serious problems, sir. That's all I got to say. I am like Mando. I mean anti Andor right now.
I don't know about that.
You want to know why? Because everyone wants to say like, oh, Andor is the pinnacle of Star Wars. It's the best writing of all time. And I'm like, oh, really? You guys want to talk about how many holes are in like Obi-Wan and like Mando? Well, let me tell you, there are plenty of holes in Andor that gets covered up because everyone loves the acting and loves the scenes. But the other scenes that go along with it don't make sense. And people go, yes, it does.
Was hella boring. I'm sorry. I liked it. It was fine, but it was.
What was?
There's Andor.
Oh, Andor was really good. It just took you 6 episodes to get to the good.
Yeah.
And I've said this to people before. If Andor had not been Star Wars, I would not have stuck with it.
That's a very valid point.
And once it got good, it got really good. But it took.
They dropped the first 3 episodes because the first 2 were very boring, and then the third one was like, holy crap! And then they did the same thing. The next episode was boring, and then the episode after was like a little better, and then the 6th episode it explodes again. So
yeah.
Yes. If people are watching this, we are talking about comics eventually again. But the only reason why that's the whole reason to get the boys together so we can talk about comics and give you recommendations afterwards. But I want to give them a chance to say their piece. So
let me say one more thing, though.
Yeah, please.
And I'll say it as spoiler free as I can. Right. So obviously the cast of Ahsoka goes to a destination.
Right.
Didn't care for how it looked.
Wally World?
That one.
Oh.
I expected something that didn't feel so familiar. I was disappointed in that aspect.
Well, I can tell you right now, I think these shots make it look amazing, but there's parts of it in the show that don't look amazing and look very boring. But these shots make it look incredible. I think it's just one of those things where you have to kind of just deal with the fact that people complain. And this is not you, Chris, but I've seen people, the person earlier had mentioned it. And again, I don't want to undermine that person's opinion by any means, but I will say that people are very quick to say, I hate the volume sucks, volume this. They use practical location like this. And then people are like, this looks boring. This looks normal. It's like, can't have, not you, but you can't have it both ways. You gotta have to roll with it.
I never thought about the volume at all watching the show.
I didn't either. People were talking all about volume this, and I don't see it. I love it. I think it looks great. I do. I love Ahsoka. I think this show is amazing. Like I really quickly about Sabine. I didn't like her the first 2 episodes. I liked her more as the show went on. I thought
my problem with her characterization was that I felt like she regressed from Rebels.
Guys, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I wouldn't say you're completely wrong, but I honestly think you might be wrong.
To me and my wife, she came across very petulant.
She does.
Your wife?
No, Sabine.
Sabine.
God, right. You are being dangerous.
I thought that's what he said.
I know. That's what you're gonna get in trouble, man.
All right, sorry about that.
All right, anyway, it's all right. That's all right. All right. No, but I think you're right. But I think at this point she's gone through a lot. She's lost Ezra. She's lost her family. She lost her master. But I mean, there's that. I think there's a reason the way she acted. She's acted the way she acted. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I just.
It didn't connect. I get it. You didn't connect, and I think that's fine. But did you like it overall?
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite. But it certainly wasn't the worst of Star Wars TV either, right? Like if there, I mean, of course, if there was even if I hated it, I'd watch the second season. But no, I mean, I liked it. I just didn't love it, and I thought that Dave Filoni. It was Dave Filoni at his most Filoni, is how I put it.
That's why it was amazing.
I like Dave Filoni, and I know I have a lot of respect for his passion for Star Wars. I don't agree with a lot of his storytelling choices, though. And I think that this show had some choices that I just didn't care for.
Well, the good news is you've seen other people's choices, and if we're gonna go back to politically for a second here, Mr. Rifen, we're gonna go lesser of two evils. We'll just say that. And all I gotta say is, if I had to pick Filoni or some like Tony Gilroy, I'd be like, Gilroy, get the hell out of here. Don't even come near Star Wars again, please. Go write another Bourne movie, please. Just do that. Like seriously, because I want just go on a little bit of a rant here. Just a little bit of a rant.
Take a new Bourne movie though.
I've never seen one. I don't care. So I just don't. Yeah. I watched the Creator a couple weeks ago.
How was it?
It was. I thought it was really good. It's not the strongest. It's not the strongest narratively. But I saw it in the theater. I enjoyed it. It has this everything in Rogue One, and this is what I said in my tweet. I said everything in Rogue One. You think that is it all Gareth? Like where no, it's all Gareth. Like that movie is what like besides a couple of scenes that you obviously can tell that Gilroy came in and helped help smooth the things over. The stuff that we all love from it, the most of the action stuff, all Gareth, because the creator is that just in a different universe, and it still looks great and it's still unique. It still looks dynamically interesting, and he may not be the greatest. Like he's very much like a George Lucas in that way, you could say, right? Like he's not gonna direct like he probably directs better than George does for actors, but with the right material, I think Gareth would do fine. I think his story was fine. I think the movie's fine. Like
his Godzilla was awesome.
I didn't love Godzilla, but I didn't hate it. The creator's really good, but it shows you that Rogue One is him. The movie works because of, I think, not of Tony Gilroy. I think Gilroy made it over the top. He brought it to get the masses kind of connected to it. But for people to resonate with people, I think to remember it, that's all Gareth. That's 100% Gareth. And it really sucks because I think with the right writers, Gareth would be in Star Wars because look at Andor. When I watch Andor, it doesn't look like the creator or Rogue One, in my opinion. Yeah. And it's not a detriment, but the creator looks like Rogue One and it's great. So take that for what it is. I mean, I like Andor. I do like Andor. I'm tired of people saying it's the best Star Wars ever because it ain't. In my opinion, it ain't. And it's not flawless. People act like, oh, it's flawless. I've got great acting. It's like you have great acting and still your scenes may not make sense still. Just going to throw it out there. Yeah.
That's a really good question there.
I don't think you're wrong, Dark Choco. I think you're right. But I don't think this is a Star Wars issue. This is a modern day franchise issue that everything is setting up the other thing.
It's a tentpole issue. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that's the main issue. But at the same time, I do think Star Wars has endings. And the reason why it has endings that you can't really reboot it. You just keep developing on top of it. And I think that's kind of you can use the mediums to help tell your stories like comics, like animation and develop these characters like Ahsoka through the animation. You don't have to rely on recasting a Luke Skywalker every 10 years or 20 years, right? Like Marvel eventually have to do a reboot eventually, hopefully not for a long time, but that's why, but going back to comic books, look what's happening in the comic books right now. Why are so many characters becoming new heroes? Why are all of a sudden the Marvel characters that never were the legacy characters, right, Finn and Chris, like the Batmans and the Green Lanterns and the Flashes, that was all DC. Now it's happening to Marvel. There's no accident there. It's because they're trying, not all of it, but most of it now is because they're trying to stay relevant and stay young to keep the series of MCU going without having to reboot. And that's why you have Ironheart instead of Iron Man, which again, I don't think it's a bad thing. Some people might say it's a bad thing. I don't. That being said, that's what Marvel is doing, in my opinion. And Star Wars doesn't have that problem because their story just keeps going. Whereas Marvel has to figure out what it's doing. Whereas Star Wars just keeps developing and going forward. But Ahsoka is great. I love it. Rifing, get on it for God's sakes, man. Stop.
By the time we get back together, I will have watched it.
I don't believe
that's my belief. That's my belief.
G, will you make sure this happens and make sure he watches Rebels too?
Is that Scott's way of telling us he's not recording for the rest of the year?
Wow.
Woo! Man, Chris knows you better. He knows you as well as most people now, Ryfin. Jeez.
Ugh.
Oh, God, I love it.
I got to finish Cerebus, too. So when are we going to binge on that?
Oh, I don't know if I'm ever going to binge that.
Oh, I'm about 300, and I'm about 240 issues into Cerebus out of 300.
I don't want to get into cancel culture, but things I've heard about that guy, I'm like, I don't know if I want to ever read Cerebus.
I think you gotta read it. I mean, there's stuff in there that you read it and you go, he's off in the wrong place. But in the overall, it is a brilliant piece of work.
He's important to the comic book medium, no doubt. I don't know if I want to read his stuff either, if that makes sense. I can acknowledge the importance he brings. We'll see. I need to do some more research. I don't know. The things I've heard, I'm like, I don't know if I like this guy.
I don't really like him either. But
yeah, no, that's fair. Anyway, but maybe one day you can pick Cerebus for a comic book masterpiece episode, and you'll force me to read it, and I can tell you whatever. But until that day, but first you have to finish Rebels and Ahsoka and catch up on everything else. So
yep.
All right, really quick, let's do some comic book recommendations. Chris, I'll go with you first. Where to set this up for people, I wanted you to did you send me the pictures, guys, by the way, guys? I don't know if you guys did or not. I apologize.
I'd send it to you in the X message because I couldn't send it to you in the. Yeah.
I didn't because I am lazy.
That's fair. All right. Well, do you have a copy of it to show?
I do, right next to me.
All right. Well, in that case, why don't you do it? Why don't you throw us up your copy? But before I do that, let me throw this off first, and then All right. Go ahead. Tell us what you picked for. Let me set it up first for two. I asked these guys to pick the fantastical elements of Star Wars comic recommendations because Ahsoka heavily leans into the fantastical element, which I love. So I wanted you guys to pick fantasy-focused Star Wars comics. So, Chris, go ahead and you have the floor, my friend. Will you do your thing?
So mine's not a particular issue as much as it is a run.
No, which is either one doesn't matter.
But I am. And I got a great story. So the Greg Pak run of Darth Vader, which is still ongoing, is when it first started, I said, I hate this run. I don't like it. I hate it.
I can't remember that.
And I am now at the point where I think it is maybe the best out of all the Darth Vader runs.
You were wrong. But anyway.
The familiar refrain tonight.
And as somebody who does not super enjoy the fantastical elements that are found in Star Wars, I think that he does this so well with Darth Vader. We see a lot of these. He'll think. You'll see his inner thoughts. He'll revisit kind of pivotal moments from. Usually it's the prequels, but not always. But it's from when he's Anakin Skywalker, typically. Really kind of get inside his head. There's this really nice twist very early in the series where it's not Padme, but one of her handmaidens shows up, Sabe.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And kind of like all the strife that causes him, just having her around him. He's also got a incredible sidekick in Ochi of Bestoon, who is, for me, I think maybe my favorite of the new canon Star Wars characters.
Will you please show the comic too?
And a nice tie to the sequel trilogy.
Show the comic. Oh yeah. Excuse me.
No, I agree. The sequel trilogy. Show the cover. Show people so people can buy it.
I showed it earlier.
You did? I totally missed it.
Yeah, it's got the racetrack around it. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the racetrack too. That's great. No, I agree. I'm behind on it, and I think Greg Pak's picked up. Oh, it's great. That's fantastic. Greg Pak's picked up where I thought it would be almost impossible to follow up Soul, but guy's doing it. He's doing a solid job. I'm digging it. So I mean,
it is for me. It really gets into the internal character of Darth Vader in a way that the other authors that have done his runs have kind of peeled away a little bit at, but I feel like Greg Pak is really kind of diving in and really peeling it away. And He's also kind of lucky in that for this run of Vader is kind of when you've had these events that have been going on, which can be annoying at some points, like the War and the Bounty Hunters. But when they're kind of more adjacent to these arcs, and some of the like at the end of Hidden Empire, the Force kind of goes crazy. So then in the Darth Vader series, you really get to see how the Force going crazy affects Darth Vader, right? You see him like really kind of go outrageous and use the Force in these very fantastical moments that just look really cool. So you kind of get that fallout in his story, and you kind of get to see a really cool kind of progression, especially from where his character was at the end of Empire Strikes Back, threading to Return of the Jedi. He also drops some decent tie-ins to the Rise of Skywalker,
which is awesome. I've read that. That's great.
Not a big Rise of Skywalker fan, but
that's where you're wrong again.
Even I can appreciate the kind of world building. Poster. Even I can appreciate the world building though that they're doing to kind of fill in some of the gaps.
Sure. Well, I mean, Ochi's part of Rise of Skywalker, so I mean,
yes, and I love 000 and BT, the homicidal droids. They show up, they're great. Aphra shows up. She's typically a Darth Vader supporting character as well. But for me, pound for pound, Ochi Bestoon, so funny, laugh out loud funny for me. He says the stupidest things that just feel so realistic, and I can't help but I just crack up.
What's interesting is that, and you guys can disagree with me on this. I think consistently over the new Marvel era, I think consistently the Vader comic has been the best comic.
Yes.
Oh, 100%. All the way through.
Mm-hmm. And in premise, it shouldn't be.
I know, right?
Vader is a villain. You can't show him winning because he can't win. But if you consistently show him losing, then he loses his menace as a villain.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow everybody who's been brought on, they've done what, three volumes of this now.
Yep.
And every time somebody finds an angle where they can work it so that they can kind of work it between, he gets his personal victories that don't affect the overall arc, and they don't show him losing. In fact, I guess it was Soul who started off with him in the sewer, really. I mean, on the Emperor's totally bad side. Wasn't that the Soul run, or was that the one before that?
Yeah, it was Soul.
Yeah,
it took place right after Revenge of the Sith.
He had to build his way back up, and it's amazing to me that every time the least likely premise to work, it's almost like they go, we know this doesn't work doing it by the book, so we've got to really be hyper creative and make this work. And I think they may put more effort into it, more creativity into it, to make sure that it's a quality product, because again, in premise it shouldn't work, but every time they've done it, it has.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm with you. It's Darth Vader. There's not a bad Darth Vader comic, and really isn't. It's been, except for the Chuck Wendig annual, which was awful.
I'm not a Chuck Wendig fan. So.
I know you aren't. I know you're not. I'm not really either. He sucks. I don't even care if he sucks.
I like his books.
He just
see the books. The books are what set me off on him.
No, I'm good.
It's, to me, Aftermath was, if Buffy the Vampire Slayer wrote a Star Wars novel, it would have been Aftermath. And so
that actually sounds good. That actually sounds much better than what we got.
Description of Aftermath.
The interludes of Aftermath are actually worth reading. Everything else is garbage. Anyway, continue. We're gonna move on to Ryfin's pick, and then I have my pick, and we'll get out of here. Ryfin, take it away, old man.
When you said do a comic with fantasy elements to it, two words came to mind: Serphidian Eyes, issue 64 of the original Marvel Star Wars.
All right, there it is.
Yeah, and this is the one Star Wars comic that you're going to go to that's got jousting, it's got suits of armor. When you see Balin and that kind of thing, they look like they've got like a variation of old school suits of armor. Those
Yeah,
visuals,
yeah.
those visuals remind me of what's in this book. This book's got jousting, it's got armor, it's got castles. It's got everything it should probably not have in a Star Wars comic, but yet it's neat. It's fun.
Is this DeMatteis or is it Michelini?
Michelini wrote the script, but it's somebody else's plot, and the art's not great either. But it's just such a different comic that it's worth reading.
It sounds. I vaguely remember this. I get this in the Lando like weird dimensional genie thing that kind of props up.
Is that the Cody Sunchild thing?
Yeah. That's just bonkers. But so I mean, that story is crazy. So
very odd.
All right, yeah. So all right, so I'll have my quick pick. Which, by the way, like it's so weird. Small little rant. These are the Ahsoka comics that she was in, and like they haven't reprinted these, and they're going through all the epics. I talked to my epic people, the epic podcast, and I'm on a Facebook with the epic people, and I'm like, hey, where's the Marvel epics at for this? Oh, they don't own the rights. I'm like, well, who cares? Like they didn't have the rights for other crap, and they still made that. Like, why don't they put this out?
Wait, they don't own the rights?
Apparently, they don't own the rights.
I totally don't believe that.
Dude, I agree, but apparently that they know their crap, and they'd say that they don't own this. Oh, and Curtis, this is his quote, and now I'm not trying to talk smack.
Curtis knows everything.
Curtis, you know who I'm talking about? Curtis is the man. He's the man. But he said that they won't reprint these because they don't make a lot of money off them. I'm like, hold up.
That I believe.
That I don't believe, because you're telling me that you put Ahsoka on these comics right now. You're not going to sell more of these, and plus it's Star Wars, right? What? Come on.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at sales numbers these days, they're not going to sell that many copies. I get.
Droids and Ewoks.
Yeah, because you're talking about appeal going back to 1977.
Homie, this is Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah, I know. And Ahsoka is huge in the couple of little pockets. But outside of that,
wait, you're telling
really
me
not.
Wait, hold on. Time out.
Okay.
You're telling me.
Yes.
I'm about to lose my mind.
Okay.
You're telling me.
We're never going to be asked to come back.
This is the wrong one. God dang it. 1 second. I am off my rocker right now.
I should have just shut up. We were almost out. We were almost done. We could have walked. I could have gone to bed.
I know you could have. And
all of a sudden,
you're telling me this has more financial appeal than this?
Yes.
You are out of your mind. You are out of your mind.
Ahsoka's got appeal in the box, and then you talk about appealing to a larger See, here's the thing: when
no one's buying this, Ryfin, no one is buying this except for us. And I'm telling you right now, kids, you can market this at kids easily right now, more than this. Easily.
When Star Wars came out, and it's one of the things we talk about when we do my Star Wars story podcast. When Star Wars first came out, you've heard of that. I'm somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
And but when we do that, one of the things we talk about is when it first came out in 1977, it wasn't, because that's one of the things we talk about is, how I agree. Totally, Darth Choco. Totally.
That's amazing.
But it's when Star Wars first came out, we talk about, how were you treated? Were you treated as the nerd? Were you treated as but when it first came out, you weren't, because everybody loved it. Everybody. I get it. Droid stuff is their Star Wars from when everybody loved it.
Homie, this did not last.
No, it didn't.
If this lasted, how many seasons did Clone Wars and Ahsoka Tano last?
I mean, they probably got the same. They probably got the same number of viewers because.
But Paul,
that's got a different rating standard.
Is the audience that watches Ahsoka, are they and loves Ahsoka? Are they the ones going into the comic book store?
No.
Well, No, but the problem is they don't know it exists, Chris. That's the problem.
Yes, and they won't buy it because
No,
of
they
that.
will buy it. That's the thing. You're telling me you put this out in a freaking Target, which Target now is carrying way more manga. And look, it's even put out more than like a manga. Like these are digest things. You're telling me with Ahsoka's popularity, you put a big old thick black and white or whatever of like Ahsoka at Target, like Ahsoka's, it's a problem. There's a huge poster of Ahsoka right behind me that came out. I mean, God, this isn't rocket science.
But it takes like 2 cents to publish a poster.
Right. But dude, this is all I'm saying. My point is this. I'm not saying it's going to sell like hotcakes and become the best-selling graphic novel of all time. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if you can make money off of this, there's no way in hell it's going to outsell this. There's no way. There's no way. And that's why when Curtis told me that, I'm like, dude, there's no way they're going to produce. They can justify themselves and say, oh no, we could sell droids and Ewoks way more than a character we're actually still, promoting its own Disney Plus show.
You know what two things in Star Wars sell more than anything else, no matter what, no matter the era, no matter the anything?
I understand.
Darth Vader and R2-D2. And that's it. Those are the two biggest selling things, no matter what.
Yeah,
Darth Vader, R2-D2. Done.
Yeah.
You know what? I almost did the Star Wars Visions one shot, but I think I recommended it previously, and that's why I didn't do it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, but I don't want to read the comics. I don't want to read that though.
It's really good.
Last time.
Yeah, you want to know why? It's because
consistency.
It's if there's anything about me, Ryfin, you know this. I'm damn consistent.
Yep.
For better or for worse.
That's what I love. I love
exactly. Same with you guys. I love this. I love you guys. Someone who shows me, let's just say, this is a wisdom for all you people who are watching. If you're under the age of like 20 years old or even whatever, if someone's inconsistent, it's not a good sign. Get out. So that's the first thing for me. All right. So if Curtis if this gets back to Curtis, which it won't, but get back to me. Let's get the bait because this is a travesty. Anyway, so my pick is this. I'll throw it up there. It'll cover my face because who cares about my dumb face? Is going to be Knights of the Old Republic.
You can't use this one.
Why?
Because we have to read this. I've never read this.
We're gonna read it.
Better. I've never read it.
Let me tell you. I'm an old school Marvel Star Wars guy. That series is one of the best. Yeah, I know you didn't know. That series is one of the best Star Wars comic series I've ever read in my life. I love John Jackson.
But this is number one. This is number one.
I've got the 3 Dark Horse volumes. I've got the omnibus volumes, and I've got the Marvel omnibus volume as well. And I've never read it, and I want to so bad, but it's like,
great.
All right, I'm gonna proclamate a proclamation right now, and I'm gonna see if Dark Tucker you're watching, you are invited to join us on this adventure. I'm just gonna invite you. These guys they don't have a say in this. I don't care. So we're gonna read this. I'm not sure how much. We can read all of it. I don't care. I'm down. I'm in it to win it. But either way, in some shape or form, we are going to read this when the Acolyte drops, and we're going to coordinate it with Acolyte. So,
all right, I'll make sure to not watch Acolyte.
No, not to make sure. I know you won't. That's how confident I am.
Read all of the High Republic leading up to it, though.
Yeah, I will not be doing that. So, I'll read a lot. I'm not reading all of it. So I read Coven's. Listen, I don't like talking SH about writers or anything on here, but I read Kevin Scott's initial comics. No thanks. I'm not reading those again. Sorry. I'll read them once. He gets one. That's it. So just gonna say it out there. Kevin, I'm sure you're a great person. I'm sure you write well in novels. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. Anyway, oh, dude, come on, bro.
You know what we do owe Kevin Scott for?
We got you. Oh, I already know. Yeah,
you made Jackson canon.
I know. I don't. Yeah. Fine. Kevin's cool. Listen, he's fine. But anyway, go if for fantasy elements, go check out Knights of the Old Republic. I think if you're feeling Jedi stuff, this is where to go. I've read a good portion of this, not all of it. It's very good. It's very good.
It's great.
We talk about consistency. It's a very consistent comic. It's not going to blow your mind, but it's so consistently solid to good that it keeps going.
Well, John Jackson wrote all of it, right?
Yeah, he did.
John Jackson Miller wrote all of it. And the thing to me is that it's almost a prototype example of how you do serialized storytelling, because there's so many seeds planted throughout that eventually sprout and bear fruit later in the book. You can't you can't ignore anything that happens in there because it all comes back.
He's got a book coming out.
Yep.
In April.
I can't wait.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy, and great writer. Yeah,
he's like an awesome guy. Seems like he obviously loves comics. He has a Comic-Con website. He
does,
which is awesome. I mean, like, dude, he's prolific. He's a good guy. And I can't wait. Maybe we'll even get him on the show. Maybe I can convince him somehow. I mean, I'm sure.
Probably. I interviewed him back in the day when he was writing Knight Errant, so he'd probably do it.
Yeah, had him on my Star Wars story.
Hey, I bet he'd probably be like, oh, this guy, poor soul, needs people to watch and help grace my presence on his very pitiful YouTube channel, which is fine. I more power. I'm looking for any help I can get. So. This was fun. This is gonna sound really backhanded compliment, but I mean this with all due respect. This is way more fun than I was expecting. I'm not sure why I'm saying that, but I'm just saying it. Like this is way more energetic and way better conversation than I thought it'd be fine, be fun, but I didn't think we were gonna go down this. I did not expect it, but I'm glad we did. Because I want to get Curtis on now just to argue this point, just to get him on here and put him on the spot.
I'm going to be walking on clouds for the rest of the weekend with that compliment. Thank you so much. What's your name again?
Ryfin, I didn't even know if you're going to show up. So don't even act like this is like, come on. Like, don't even act like, how dare you? I mean, come on. Oh, God. Oh, you guys crack me up. This is why I could never fire you guys. Come on.
Oh, you could fire.
All right. Elder Statesman, you go first. Promote your very, very conservative radio show that you do that I probably won't listen to or I'm afraid to listen to. But regardless, I still love you. But please promote all your things.
No, it's okay. I don't want anybody to find me. That's okay. They can.
You're on iHeartRadio. You're on iHeartRadio. I can't say it, but you're on iHeartRadio. Obviously, I'm not a professional.
No, I got too many people. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I don't need anything.
Just look up Scott Rife and iHeartRadio. It won't be hard. It won't be hard. All right. But you know what? Here's the deal. Even though Scott and I probably differ greatly on things, I love that man to death, and I will defend most of not what he says, but I will defend the man himself. He's a good heart. He's a big heart. So
we have a bromance going.
We definitely have a bromance. Wait, was that?
See, what you remember about that panel is that I dozed off. What I remember about that panel was the artwork they showed that seemed to suggest that Obi-Wan was nursing Darth Maul.
Breastfeeding
Darth Maul. Yeah, that's what I remember.
That's a deep cut for us. That's a deep cut for me and Ryfin. That's out there somewhere. We gotta find it again. So I'll never. Ryfin just leans over like, it looks like he's breastfeeding. I was like, I couldn't unsee it. I just couldn't unsee it. So no, Ryfin's awesome. I wish you were my dad, Scott. I mean that with all. I mean that with all my. I mean that all my. What? I'm not even trying to backhand to compliment you. I'm trying to give you legitimate compliments. And you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe he just insulted me again.
I hope I'm not old enough to be your dad.
You could be. You'd have to get busy quickly.
Start early.
Yeah, start a little. Where is this going?
And Chris,
eject. I love you, Scott. All right. Anyway, Chris, where can people find you?
At Vile0 on Twitter. Or actually, I was. If you listen to the podcast. DIA Connections.
Oh,
I'll be on an upcoming episode. My work interviewed me for one of their episodes.
Dude, that's awesome.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's really rad, man.
Yeah.
Dark Choco. Yes. Dude, Scott is not only a professional, he's got one of the best voices in radio. He's got a
stop it.
You do your voice, dude.
Tones.
you have the dulcet tones for sure. I wish I had I wish I had your tone and the way you pronounce things, because I can't pronounce anything. So, and my mind can't keep up with my mouth, and so, or vice versa. So, like, you are like slow and steady and nail it. I'm like, blah, 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 you know. So, anyway, yeah, Chris, I'm excited. Please promote that. And next episode, I'm not sure what we'll do, but I'm probably gonna try to get my buddy Dylan on at some point to do Afra, which I'll get into that at one point. We'll see. I have to ask him and see. He's a busy guy. Not like you guys are, obviously. If you guys are busy, you wouldn't be on my show. That's for damn sure. But I did that just for you, Rafen. Just for you.
You know, I could let somebody do that to me for free.
Anyway, no, I think I'm gonna try to get that down. We'll see what happens. He's busy, but either way, we'll get you on hopefully next month, guys, one way or another. And you know, Chris isn't here, but I'll end it for him. Read more comics. Good night, everyone.